What's up, Refuge Nation? Today we're having a good conversation about what you should carry on you, why, and how to be the best prepared citizen that you can in these trying times. So I have my handy dandy whiteboard right here with some information that you can glean off of and, kind of on board. Think about every single day as you're walking out the door, and then think about when you're building your systems of preparedness, what you really need to look at and how you need to look at it, right? So EDC stands for everyday carry, right? So these are the things and items that you carry on you every single day, whether that's your phone or your keys or your wallet or maybe a self-defense tool, and then all the way down to your medical gear, because you should be carrying medical gear on you every single day. So we see people get lost in the weeds and where they're walking around with huge pockets bulged out, or they have nothing on them whatsoever. So today we're going to talk about a realistic expectation for you as a prepared American as to what to carry. So we need to know what problems we might be facing in order to properly equip ourselves for them. And with that, we're looking at the Marche algorithm, right? So massive bleeding, airway, respiratory, circulation, head injury, hypothermia, and then we have everything else, or expose, evaluate, evacuate, and elevate, right? And so with that, inside of the Marche algorithm, we have our top three, and these are our main offenders, and primarily massive bleeding, right? So massive bleeding is going to basically account for roughly 90% of trauma-related deaths. So we know that that's our number one problem when it comes to equipping ourselves to solve these issues. So how do we mitigate a massive bleed? Well, there's a couple really easy things that you can carry on you and train with to, solve that issue if it ever were to arise. So the first primarily being a tourniquet. You need to carry an effing tourniquet. I don't care who you are, you need one, right? And the reality is the most dangerous thing we do every single day is drive. We drive these 3,000-pound missiles roughly 60 miles per hour down the road while Becky next to you is texting and Instagramming and Snapchatting. So we need to have tools on us to render aid in case there were an accident, right? Because that happens every single day. So having a tourniquet on you, on your person, and I always recommend carry two, right? And the best way to do that is carry one in your cargo pocket and then carry one on the visor of your vehicle, right? That gives you two tourniquets that are easily accessible, one of which being up above, so that way if the car were to suffer some sort of collision and some sort of damage to where you can't access your door panels, it's up high in a place that's standardly not sacrificed, right? So having a tourniquet on you, have some wound packing gauze, right? This can be hemostatic impregnated or non-hemostatic impregnated. Studies have shown us that if you wound pack correctly, there is actually no depreciable difference between hemostatic and non-hemostatic. Now, the reason that we advocate so heavily for hemostatic impregnated gauze is because it gives you the ability to make a mistake. It accounts for the margin of error, right? And so having that additional clotting agent inside of the gauze really helps if you weren't to create enough pressure through your wound packing. And then carry some sort of emergency trauma dressing or a compression wrap or something to secure wound packing after you're finished doing that process. This right here, those three tools, account for roughly 90% of trauma-related deaths. So having a tourniquet, wound packing gauze, and an emergency trauma dressing are going to be extremely helpful in your everyday carry. Then with that, you have airway, right? And so the rest of the whole Marche algorithm, that's about 8%, and it goes in order of lethality, right? And so with that, airway. And the first and easiest thing that you can know how to do is putting somebody inside of the recovery position and then a proper chin thrust, right? And so knowing a good CPR method, how to secure that patented airway and open it up through a proper chin thrust to maintain good air coming in and out, right? And then with that, a nasopharyngeal airway will go a long way in maintaining a patented airway. If the patient were to go unconscious or maybe is in and out of consciousness, we then have the ability to keep air going into the body, which is, very important, right? And then after that, we have respiratory. And so respiratory, this is some sort of puncture has happened to our pleural space, our box, and with that, we want to seal that puncture up to maintain a proper vacuum. So, easiest way to do this, chest seal or an occlusive dressing, right? We always carry the halo chest seals, one's being vented and one non-vented. That way you can maintain that positive pressure inside of the pleural space. And I recommend that everybody carries a set of chest seals on them. Punctures to the pleural space happen way more often than we would like to admit, or way more often than people are willing to account for. And it's just a really easy tool to carry on you that doesn't take up much space, it doesn't take up a lot of weight, and it gives you so much more capability when rendering aid. Then after that, you have shock prevention blankets, you have gauzes and wraps, eye pads, eye shields, all of that I recommend you keep inside of a first aid kit within an arm's reach, somewhere near you, right? But that doesn't have to necessarily be on your person. Right now, in my pocket, I have a tourniquet on me. This is a soft T, a Gen 5, and it's orange, right? High vis, because if I'm rendering aid inside of a situation, I want people to be able to see I've applied a tourniquet. That always lives right here. It packs down really flat. That's why I like the soft T for everyday carry. Then, if you look in my lower pocket, I have a set of combat gauze. I always have gloves right here on me. I didn't mention that before, but you should be carrying some sort of nitrile gloves on you as well. Very, very important. If it's wet and it's sticky and it's not yours, don't touch it. That's weird. Carry gloves. So I've got some combat gauze right there. And then what I do, because I'm weird and I've seen bad things happen, I carry an ankle kit on me. And the way I carry my ankle kit is very easy, very simple. Just right here, loops around like so. And then with that, I have an additional set of gloves, additional wound packing gauze. I have an additional tourniquet, because 2 is 1 and 1 is none. And then I have a set of chest seals and a little gauze pad. That gives me the ability to solve 95-ish% of trauma-related injuries when they happen, you know, in a civilian or first responder capacity. That's not too burdensome, and it's not too much to carry on you every day. I rarely even feel that my ankle rig is there. It's just in my cargo pocket. It sits there. It's easy to reach. It's always accessible for the most part, and so that gives you the ability to render aid inside of an emergency situation. Everyday carry is It's a hot topic. People love to talk about it. They have their own opinions, and carry what works for you. The best tourniquet to carry every single day is the Committee on TCCC recommended one that fits in your pocket. If that's a CAT Gen 7, awesome. If that's a soft T Gen 5, great. If that's a TMT, awesome. If that's an RMT, great. Whatever works for you, that's what you need to carry, because it could very well likely happen to you or to somebody around you, right? So, taking a look at that EDC, we have to understand, like I said before, that the #1 preventable cause of death in the US right now is massive bleeding. That just means that somebody was bleeding to death. We had a hole in an artery, or we had a severed artery, and nobody had the tools to shut that off. Carrying these tools and knowing how to use them, you could save lives every single day. We could make more capable Americans, and we could propagate a more responsive culture, right? So we're going to carry at a minimum on you 1 COT-C TQ. Now, what TQ you carry is based on your own preference, but some things to think about is the size of the casualty. A soft T is a little bit longer than a CAT Gen 7, so it gives you the ability to treat larger limbs. The method of use, are you planning on applying it to yourself? If you're planning on applying it to yourself, you have to really train with a soft T, because it's not as easy as the intuitiveness of the CAT Gen 7 where you just pull away from you. And then we also have to understand with tourniquets, 2 is 1 and 1 is none, right? Understand that equipment does fail in the field. It's very possible that you might have to put on a second tourniquet because it fails. Whatever the situations may be, make sure you're equipping yourself properly. 1 hemostatic gauze. I don't care if it's combat gauze or it's quick clot or it's C-Lox rapid or whatever it may be, whatever works for you, but some sort of hemostatic impregnated gauze to allow you the ability to not wound pack perfectly, but still have successful clotting and stopping of that massive hemorrhage, right? And then a compression device, whether that's a SWAT T, whether that's a flat compression bandage, whether that's an emergency trauma dressing, whatever works for you in your EDC, in your pockets, right? On your ankle rig or whatever it may be, carrying this on your person should be easy, should be light, and definitely usable, right? And then you have one set of chest seals, right? And I recommend some duct tape. Duct tape's usually easy. You can get it on a flat board, or you can put it in a little roll. You can carry it on your person. That comes in handy so much every single day, not even just in a medical practicality or in a medical practice, but also just in your day-to-day use. Duct tape is really handy. So carrying a set of chest seals and then carrying duct tape. And the reason I recommend duct tape with chest seals is because if you were to use your chest seals and you needed another set, you have the plastic wrapping that the chest seals come in. With the duct tape, you can then create another hasty, field expedient set of chest seals, right? Another occlusive dressing to get that good seal. All right, guys, so that's a quick look at what an EDC may look like for the prepared American. Remember, Rome wasn't built in a day, so it's okay to take a little bit of time and figure out what works for you. You might have to trade this component out for that component. You may have to try carrying it this way versus that way. And it's okay to experiment a little bit with your EDC. Just because somebody on the internet that looked cool said it a certain way doesn't mean you have to do it that way. Just because I run an ankle rig doesn't mean you need to run an ankle rig. It means that you need to look into carrying the tools to save lives every single day, because that's what being a good person does. Right? Or that's what being a good person is. And so it gives you the ability to help others, right? Thanks so much for tuning in, guys. Leave a comment as to what, your EDC may look like. We're always curious as to see what people are carrying each day. So let us know in the comments below. What are you carrying? How are you carrying it? What works for you? What doesn't work? And remember, carry an effing tourniquet.